What if I were to reveal to you right now that your knees are almost always the very first red flag your body raises when your skeletal system begins secretly breaking down, long before any high-tech bone density scanner ever picks up a single trace of trouble? Over my years of practice, I have witnessed dozens upon dozens of unsuspecting men and women walk into the clinic, presenting what seemed like the most everyday, harmless physical complaint imaginable. My knees have felt unusually stiff these past few weeks. It takes a real effort to climb up the front steps. And then, just a few short months down the line, their official bone density scans return with shocking results that absolutely nobody saw coming. According to the most recent health statistics, well over half of all American adults past the age of 50 are currently living with some dangerous degree of progressive bone loss, and the vast majority of them remain completely unaware of the invisible damage occurring inside their bodies until a sudden, sharp ache in the knee finally forced them to seek urgent medical attention. Today, I am not here to offer you generic, watered-down wellness pointers. I am going to walk you through 5 highly specific, clinically backed foods, daily foods that I have personally seen turn lives around for my own patients. And I will explain precisely why, if you wait until your knees are already in agony before you decide to act, you may have already let the most critical window of opportunity slip right through your fingers. My name is Sarah. I am 45 years old, and I have dedicated more than 20 continuous years of my life to working face-to-face with older adults, starting out on a demanding hospital geriatric ward early in my clinical career, and now providing specialized home health care, where I personally travel straight into people's living rooms to care for vulnerable individuals who can no longer move around or leave home on their own. I am not standing here regurgitating abstract theories I read in a medical textbook. I am sharing real, hard-earned clinical truths that I have witnessed with my own 2 eyes, week after week, inside the quiet homes of everyday people who used to be every bit as active, independent, and healthy as you are at this exact moment. And because I truly, deeply care about preventing you from suffering through the heartbreaking ordeals my patients have endured, I want to stop and ask you something right now. Please drop a comment down below and share your current age, as well as an honest update on how your knees are holding up lately. Do you feel a sharp, dull ache every time you go up the stairs? Are your joints stiff and locked up when you try to get out of bed in the morning? I genuinely want to know your story, because reading your words helps me understand exactly who is watching and what guidance you need to hear most. And if you find real value in the warnings and solutions I am sharing today, please hit that subscribe button. I release a brand new, in-depth guide every single week, all designed to help you safeguard your physical independence for as many years as possible. Let us dive straight into the very first critical food on my imperative list: wild fatty fish, specifically salmon, sardines, and mackerel. I know you have heard people preach about fish before, but let me break down the exact underlying biological mechanism so you can grasp why I relentlessly push this food on my patients. I want you to picture your living skeleton as an intense, non-stop construction zone that never sleeps for a single second. Every day of your life, your body naturally breaks down a small amount of old, degraded bone matrix and tirelessly constructs brand new, healthy bone material to take its place. To carry out this vital rebuilding process, your biological machinery demands an endless supply of calcium. However, flooding your system with calcium alone is fundamentally useless. Your gut urgently requires adequate amounts of vitamin D to actually absorb that calcium into your bloodstream and transport it directly into your skeletal frame. Fatty fish stands out as one of the extremely rare, naturally concentrated dietary sources packed with real vitamin D. I once cared for a patient named Robert, a 68-year-old retired industrial electrician living entirely on his own in Columbus, Ohio, who had worked tirelessly with his hands his entire adult life. Robert virtually never touched fish. He bluntly confessed to me that he could never stand the fishy taste or texture. When I asked him when he had last scheduled a routine bone density scan, he stared back blankly, unable to recall a single instance. After his physician definitively diagnosed him with early-stage osteoporosis, I sat down at his kitchen table, not to force-feed him something he despised, but to brainstorm creative, appetizing ways to blend salmon into simple meals he would genuinely look forward to eating, lightly pan-seared with fresh herbs, a bright squeeze of fresh lemon juice, served over a bed of fluffy rice. Half a year later, Robert looked me in the eye and reported that his knees felt dramatically less stiff and remarkably smoother when waking up in the morning. I am certainly not claiming that eating salmon is some magical overnight cure-all. What I am telling you is that your biological frame requires raw structural ingredients to repair itself, and fatty fish represents one of the most vital, irreplaceable building blocks that seniors across the country are quietly running out of without even realizing the danger. Moving on to the second crucial food item you must prioritize: dark leafy green vegetables, specifically kale, fresh spinach, and broccoli. This entire food category is underestimated and brushed aside more than almost any other nutritional recommendation I make in the field. Dark leafy greens are overflowing with vitamin K, an unsung hero of a nutrient that rarely receives the spotlight it deserves. Yet it functions as the ultimate biological traffic conductor. Vitamin K works tirelessly behind the scenes to guarantee that circulating calcium gets locked directly into your hard bone tissue, rather than settling into dangerous unintended places like the walls of your cardiovascular blood vessels. To put it bluntly, you could consume all the calcium supplements on the planet, but if your body is running on empty when it comes to vitamin K, that calcium may never reach your bones where it is desperately required. I am immediately reminded of a patient named Patricia, a delightful 72-year-old retired elementary school teacher living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Patricia took immense personal pride in drinking a big glass of fresh milk every single day of her life, yet she almost completely shunned green vegetables, claiming they were simply far too tough to chew, ever since she began dealing with intricate dental work. Despite her flawless calcium intake, her follow-up bone scans showed zero meaningful improvement. Once I carefully explained the vital role vitamin K plays as the missing key, we devised a plan using small, manageable steps: pureeing fresh kale directly into warm, hearty soups, and gently sautéing baby spinach until it was completely soft and tender. You do not need to force yourself to choke down massive raw salads if your teeth or stomach cannot handle them. You simply need to find clever, enjoyable ways to incorporate rich greens into your routine meals on a regular basis, using whatever cooked texture or preparation you can comfortably chew, digest, and enjoy. Now let us address the third food on our list, which is perhaps the most famous and traditional of them all: quality milk and dairy products. Whether that means low-fat dairy milk, organic Greek yogurt, or, if you suffer from lactose intolerance, high-quality plant milks that have been heavily fortified with bioavailable calcium. Dairy provides the most direct, highly absorbable, and easily utilized source of structural calcium your body can possibly get its hands on. But here is the alarming trend I need you to recognize. A shocking number of older adults I visit have quietly and completely stripped dairy out of their daily routines over the years, often driven by worries over fat content, unexpected digestive sensitivities, or simply because their cooking habits drastically shifted once they found themselves living alone. I will never forget visiting a patient named Margaret, a 75-year-old woman residing in Phoenix, Arizona, who had dedicated her entire professional career to working as a dedicated school nurse, and there was a profound, heartbreaking irony in seeing someone who spent decades educating young people about health completely neglect her own nutritional baseline. Following the painful loss of her beloved husband, Margaret admitted to me with tears in her eyes that cooking a proper meal for just one person simply didn't feel worth the effort anymore, causing her daily food intake to degrade into nothing more than plain toast and black tea. She went month after month without touching a drop of milk, a slice of cheese, or a spoonful of yogurt. When I stepped in to help her build a simple, effortless morning routine, incorporating rich Greek yogurt every morning and adding a slice of real cheese to her afternoon lunch, she looked at me with deep relief and said it felt like I was finally honoring my body and taking care of myself again. Bone loss does not always stem from a lack of scientific knowledge. So often, it sneaks in through the quiet, unnoticed lifestyle shifts that happen when life gets difficult. The fourth power food that demands a permanent place in your kitchen consists of wholesome nuts and legumes, particularly raw almonds, non-GMO soybeans, and hearty lentils. This powerful food group is loaded with rich deposits of magnesium, a vital mineral that receives shockingly little attention from the general public, despite being absolute mandatory for converting raw vitamin D into its active, usable chemical form within the human body. You can think of magnesium as the master ignition key that unlocks the biological door so that vitamin D and calcium can actually merge and do their structural work. Furthermore, nuts and legumes supply your frame with high-quality plant-based protein, and protein serves as the physical scaffolding and collagen matrix that maintains your bone's physical integrity, serving as the actual structure that holds calcium in place. I remember working closely with a patient named James, a 70-year-old retired long-haul truck driver residing just outside Denver, Colorado. James suffered a frightening slip on a wet tile floor in his bathroom, and while he was fortunate enough not to break a hip, his follow-up hospital scans revealed that his internal bone density was vastly lower than anyone expected for a man his age. James's lifelong eating habits revolved almost entirely around heavy red meats and simple starches. He practically never touched a nut, seed, or bean in his entire life. Rather than demanding a radical, overwhelming diet overhaul, we started with effortless micro-changes. Placing a small bowl of raw almonds on his counter for an afternoon snack, and simmering nutrient-dense lentils straight into the savory beef soups he already loved. He did not need to completely throw out his lifestyle. He simply needed to plug the gaping nutritional holes that were quietly eroding his skeleton from the inside out. The fifth and final crucial food category I must urge you to stock up on today is vitamin C-rich fruits, particularly fresh oranges, ripe juicy strawberries, and sweet kiwi fruit. It might initially strike you as bizarre to hear me championing vibrant citrus fruits and berries in a dedicated video about structural bone health and joint integrity. But allow me to reveal the fascinating science behind it. Vitamin C serves as the absolute primary catalyst required by your biological pathways to synthesize high-quality collagen, the resilient, flexible protein structure that forms the internal matrix inside your bones, giving your skeleton not just rigid hardness, but the essential springiness and shock absorption needed to withstand sudden impacts. If a bone becomes dense with minerals but completely lacks a flexible collagen framework, it turns glass brittle and will instantly snap during a routine stumble. To top it all off, vitamin C significantly enhances your digestive system's capacity to absorb iron, which indirectly keeps your systemic cellular energy and bone rebuilding machinery running at peak performance. I vividly recall caring for an 81-year-old patient named Dorothy, who lived in a peaceful retirement community nestled in Tampa, Florida. Dorothy casually mentioned to me during my initial home visit that she had an intense aversion to anything sour, which led her to completely eliminate all citrus fruits from her diet for decades. To bypass her aversion, we introduced sweet strawberries and perfectly ripe kiwis into her daily routine, delicious options that were naturally sweet, gentle on her palate, and packed with vitamin C. Implementing that single simple dietary modification alongside our broader plan helped her regain a noticeable surge in daily vitality, and she shared a sentence with me that still rings in my ears to this day. "Sarah, I finally feel like I am actively taking charge of my own health, instead of just sitting around helplessly waiting for my body to break down." However, I need to share one more deeply personal patient story with you, a story about a wonderful woman whose tragic experience permanently ingrained in my heart just how catastrophic it can be to brush off morning knee stiffness as just a harmless part of getting older. Her name was Helen. She was a 77-year-old retired emergency room nurse who lived all by herself in a cozy single-story home in Tucson, Arizona. Helen was the ultimate stoic matriarch, the exact type of fiercely independent person who would always smile brightly and insist, "Oh, I'm doing just fine," no matter how much pain she was secretly hiding. For nearly 2 full years during my home visits, she would offhandedly mention that her knees felt a bit stiff and rusty when getting out of bed. But she constantly dismissed her symptoms with a wave of her hand, rationalizing that it was merely the price of growing old, and there isn't anything anyone can do about it anyway. She steadfastly refused to schedule a professional bone density scan. She stubbornly declined to adjust her daily nutrition. She repeatedly claimed she was far too busy tending to her cherished backyard flower garden to bother with doctor appointments. Then came a chilly Tuesday morning that changed everything. As Helen took a routine step down the 2 small concrete steps leading out her front porch to grab the morning newspaper, her right knee suddenly and completely collapsed beneath her weight without any warning. She crashed heavily onto the hard pavement, and this time it was far worse than a simple surface scrape. Her weak, brittle bones snapped, resulting in a severe complex hip fracture. I sat by her hospital bed a few days after her emergency surgery, and as I held her trembling hand, she looked up at me through tears and uttered words that will haunt me for the rest of my career. "Sarah, if I had only understood that the stiffness in my knees was my body screaming at me to save myself, I never ever would have brushed it off for so long." Helen was forced to spend almost 6 agonizing months cycling through painful rehabilitation facilities, and despite all her hard work, she lost her physical independence and was never able to walk unassisted again. I am not sharing Helen's heartbreaking tragedy to shock or terrify you. I am pleading with you from the bottom of my heart because I refuse to sit back and watch you become the next preventable tragedy. Therefore, if you choose to take away only one single, life-saving lesson from our time together today, I beg you to let it be this: never wait until your knees are locked in agony before you decide to prioritize your skeletal health. Right now, pick just one single food item from the 5 powerhouses we broke down today, whether that is introducing fatty fish like salmon, eating more dark leafy greens, enjoying fresh dairy or fortified alternatives, grabbing a handful of nuts and legumes, or slicing up vitamin C-rich fruits, and commit to incorporating it into your daily meal plan starting this very week. You do not need to turn your entire life upside down overnight. Simply take one manageable, deliberate step forward today. Furthermore, if you have never taken the time to undergo a comprehensive bone density scan, pick up the phone and ask your primary care physician to order one at your upcoming checkup. It is a completely painless, non-invasive scan, yet it provides invaluable clarity about what is happening inside your frame long before a crisis occurs. And finally, if you are currently acting as a caregiver for an aging parent, spouse, or friend, pay hyper-vigilant attention if they ever casually mention having stiff, painful knees in the morning, because so often that quiet joint complaint is the one and only warning sign your body offers before a devastating fracture occurs. Before I sign off today, I want to emphasize a crucial medical reminder. Every single piece of guidance, real-world case study, and nutritional insight I have shared in this video stems directly from my personal clinical experience working alongside real patients. It is strictly intended for educational purposes and must never replace personalized medical advice from your own licensed physician. If you are currently taking prescription medications, managing underlying medical conditions, or planning to make significant overhauls to your daily nutrition, please consult directly with your trusted doctor or clinical pharmacist first. Every human body possesses unique biochemical needs, and a dietary shift that works wonders for one individual may not be appropriate for your specific health profile. Never modify, adjust, or discontinue any prescribed medications without the direct guidance of a qualified medical professional. Now, I want to hear directly from you down in the comments section. Out of the 5 vital foods we covered today, which one has been noticeably missing from your plate lately? And how are your knees feeling right now? Are they dropping subtle hints that it is time to take action? I promise to read through your responses personally. If this video brought you valuable clarity and motivation, please click that subscribe button right now, because next week I will be breaking down a critical follow-up topic that thousands of you have been writing to me about: the subtle, silent early warning signs of rapid bone loss that 90% of people completely ignore until a devastating injury strikes. Thank you for watching, take great care of your body, and I will see you in the very next video.